It's time now to review headlines of today's newspapers.
All right. We're going to start with this day newspaper, and we have boldly written, in a shocking overreaction, federal government suspends Twitter's operations. Experts doubt ability to enforce order. And Twitter says suspension deeply concerning. NBC now to license social media. Nigerian tweets prepare to use virtual private networks. Ekene, just like we were talking about earlier, predictably, we're seeing signs that enforcing this suspension might be a little bit of a Herculean task.
Yes, and some people are clearly, let me even list the people I'm seeing across the various newspapers who are resisting this, or at least putting up a defense against it. They say Shoyinka, this is in the Saturday Telegraph, just throwing ahead, Shoyinka slams Buhari over Twitter suspension. Atiku, Sani, others mock FG suspension of Twitter operation in Nigeria. I'm sure on every newspaper there's someone, shock disbelief. This is the Daily Trust, shock disbelief as federal government suspends Twitter operations in Nigeria. So they've clearly united a number of people together against this particular move.
A big backlash there. Now, still on this day, and a new low, bandits target poor, vulnerable for abductions, Tijena parents, kidnappers serious about threat to kill our children. Sympathizers raise 11 billion naira for ransom. It's becoming a worrying trend and a vicious cycle, if we may add to this cycle of abductions for ransom, kidnappings. But why target the poor?
This is a strange thing. I think it's an indirect targeting. They know the poor don't have the money, but they're hoping that, I don't know if we're playing a game of smoke screens and mirrors, because the government will take a stand and say we don't negotiate. The parents are hustling around trying to, I think the one parent who brought a lot of us to tears was saying they asked for 110 million, and now they're saying forget 110, we now want 200. And he's begging them, and they cut the phone. So even if these people sold all the lands and assets they have, they clearly can't get. Well, let me not assume, but it would seem that it would be a challenge for them.
It is a challenge.
It's possible that through the back door they're getting funding. I don't know. No one has owned up to that. But I know that those who are abducting their children have a sense that the money can be obtained. They have that confidence, or else they wouldn't be placing those demands, irrespective of the fact that they see that these people are people like themselves,
Very, very good, Kenny. Now, finally on this day, let's just take a look at this. Outgoing NEMA Director General hands over air ambulance. That's just one air ambulance. And, well, it's good to have ambulances beef up the support for NEMA's operations, as it were. But sometimes when it comes to incidents of crises, as it were, you tend to wonder where these air assets are, especially when you need to have them available. Because I know, to a large extent, this is not the first time they have an air ambulance, as it were. Okay, let's take
I just want to agree with you that it's good to have them, and it's good that they're making
optimal use of it.
We look forward to more. Okay, so let me start with the Saturday Independent.
Right.
As predictably, the issue of the Twitter suspension is making the headlines there as well. There's a story you and I touched on a bit earlier. Police nabbed 3 ex-soldiers for training ESN IPOB's military arm. And I know you expressed some dismay that this could be the case.
Dismay, yes. If that theory turns out to be the way it is, as highlighted in that paper, I don't know. It's a worrying trend. You have elements like that in the military. And then, if not for the fact that this has been brought to the fore, it creates the impression that... because let's face it, even in the militant cells, they could lay dormant and be activated at will. And you now have reformed, unquote, as it were, elements of militancy being recruited into the military. Wow. What kind of precedents are we setting here?
Well, I know, I think I said to you, because I was listening to one of the radio shows, and military personnel called in and was lamenting, and to the point of how difficult things were for them, and actually made the statement, which shocked me, and everyone just kept quiet. Well, no one intervened, to say he envies the insurgents, that he feels they're more lucrative than he is, and because of the money they're making, he would, I don't even want to go ahead and say what he said, but he was basically saying he would opt for that life if he had the opportunity. It was really strange for me to hear, because you're ready to go on the side of the enemy simply because you feel deprived of sustenance.
And that's psychologically, that shouldn't be the kind of interactions you should be having with a soldier that has to face the enemy every now and then, and he doesn't have enough tools to fight.
Yes.
So it is a worrying trend.
It's really shocking.
Really.
And then there's the other one here where, Rucha Sokorocha says the federal government anti-youth policy causes terrorism. Again, that's one view. People are saying that the government is perhaps pushing against the youth a bit too strongly, especially with regards to the way they come against social media issues. And perhaps their orientation should be to draw them close, to engage with them one-on-one, to try and understand what it is that is provoking them, because a lot of people have made the argument that the youth are at the forefront of a lot of the agitations. So it's the youth you need to engage, not to ostracize them.
Indeed. And, it's the age-long issues of unemployment, poverty. It's still a vicious cycle. And if you don't address them headlong, you continue to have discourse such as this.
Yeah. And then finally, I think on this paper, Dangote refinery to save Nigeria 23 billion forex annually. This story is met with a mixture of feelings because people are not sure the NNPC correlation with there was a story out there that said NNPC is getting a certain volume of ownership in the Dangote refinery. It seems to be muddying the waters again because...
And then there's the issue of, what was the excuse they gave? In terms of security, in terms of...
Again, this issue of transparency and not winning the people's trust.
But it goes beyond Dangote refinery as well. I think they have plans to also engage other private refineries, as it were. Now, let's take a look at The Nation. Saturday, we've already said it, anger as Buhari suspends Twitter operations in Nigeria. Sweden amnesty, PDP, MBA, others flay action. Just like the backlash we're talking about. NBC now to license all social media companies. Facebook also pulls down President Civil War post. Why ban may be difficult to enforce by experts. And down below that, this story about Catholic Church bans Father Mbaka from commenting on partisan politics. What do you make of that scenario?
I'm fascinated by that. I used to live in Enugu, and I saw Father Mbaka as a very popular person. And I felt that the Catholic Church could have earlier on laid down the guidelines for his... He seemed to have a special dispensation, if you like. And they seem
the word dispensation.
Yeah, they seem to wink at it. I'm not sure if that was because it was also lucrative. He sold things like Alpha, Raphael. He has a business behind his populist brand. And maybe it worked for them then, but now they're beginning to see that it can be unwieldy and they're trying to constrain him. Let's see how effective that will be.
Well, would it be the Catholic Church in Nigeria, or they got this straight from, the Vatican? When it comes
curious to know, but I know that definitely they should have been aware of how popular he was before now. So the fact that they're suddenly taking the axe to the roots.
Indeed. And still on The Nation, we have Niger pupils abduction. Bandits hike ransom to 200 million naira. Very disheartening scenario there. EFCC demands asset forms from bank MDs, DMDs, EDs. That's an interesting one. Asset forms. That's really interesting. Hopefully, transparency is coming into play in the banking industry as well. And finally, Seun Kuti, nothing more difficult than growing up as Fela's son. Of course, we know how his father has blazed a trail in terms of Afro music in the Nigerian music scene.